Is for us to critically look at the type of education we have in Ghana and in Africa. It's been 65 years since we had independence, and we've not seen much. People keep on blaming CPP, NDC, CCT, whatever. We at Obokasa Foundation, we think we cannot blame ourselves whilst we have a common enemy. The enemy is the type of education that we have. The enemy is the type of systems that we have in the country. The enemy is the type of systems we have in Africa. We cannot really progress as a people if our education system is Europeanized. We need African-centered education. We need education that takes into consideration our value system, our culture. That's the only way forward. When the colonizer came to town, he didn't come to uplift us. He came for his or her own benefits. And he left us. We thought we had independence. True independence is economic independence. True independence is independence of the mind. That's what we are seeking for. This summit seeks to open up the minds of the African. It seeks to jaw and then get a way forward to encourage African governments that it is high time that we have the type of education system that puts African culture at the center. This is a partnership between the Obokasa Foundation, the University of Cape Coast, and the African American Male Education Network and Development. We have close to 400 scholars and students representing 30 institutions, schools from America. And we are gathering for 6 days to explore the theme, reclaiming African sovereignty through the right education. Reclaiming the African sovereignty through the right education. Making excellence as a mantra for everything Africa and African. To peg the mind. We are here to peg the mind. Like I said to you, until you take this serious, NDC, MPP, they have not done nothing to us. The problem we face is the type of education. It does not even encourage patriotism. We are not really proud of ourselves. You go to school and then you have to be named a foreign name. We have to use Friday as African Day. Then what are the rest of the days? Are they European days? We cannot progress as a people like that. We need to re-embrace ourselves. That's the way forward.
Is to think about techniques and activities that we can do to enhance the educational framework so that all the Africans in the diaspora as well as on the continent are getting an education that's going to be helpful, moving African people all over the world forward in a positive way. That's what we're trying to do here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that your expectation?
Yes, that's my expectation.
How have you seen Ghana?
Well, I like Ghana so far. It's a start, but Aaron Stark, Grossmont College, and records of financial aid.
Time in Ghana, it's a dream. I feel like I'm dreaming. Yeah.
And your name is?
Malika.
Malika.
Yes.
What is your expectation from this summit?
This is the first time. I'm a professor of African Studies in California. This is my first time that I get to come and hear messages of decolonization from Africans, from experts, from scholars who represent the motherland, the continent. So I will bring this back to my university, to my students, and we're beginning the processes of decolonization in America, which must happen, and it takes a great strength. But to be able to get that wisdom here from Africa, it means everything to us. It means I'm crying. Every day I'm crying. So it's so powerful. Yeah, man. So overwhelmed, you know. And so we're very thankful that we can begin the process to move our people forward in America and bring them back to Africa. Let them experience what life is like here. In America, we are focused by Europeans. We're centered in a European world. To come here, we realize that Europe is not the center of the universe, that Africa is the center of the universe. And you feel it as soon as you get off that plane. So I'm thankful, very grateful to be here. Yes, thank you very much.
This is a manifestation of the Beyond the Return and the Year of Return, where the African families coming together from the diaspora with our family here on the continent so we can put our resources together, our talent together for the rise of Mother Africa and her people. And it has to begin with education. We need to decolonize our minds, and we cannot do that without an institutionalized curriculum that programs us as Africans. So this is called African-centered because now our perspective, our education must be centered from an African perspective. And you know, our minds were colonized. And so that was a program, that's a system, that institutions were built to make sure and ensured that the African was marginalized so the European principles can be manifested in the African personality. And we're trying to decolonize that mind so that the African can emerge and the African can ascend and we can be ourselves. So we're finishing the liberation struggle. Well, what this summit is doing, all of these people attending are educators, and they've come back here to Mother Africa to be able to connect with our African scholars, so together we can collectively come up with the ideas of developing an African-centered curriculum to be institutionalized in our schools, our universities, our high schools, and our elementary schools, so the curriculum reflects our destiny of where we want to go as African people. Absolutely, because humanity is being sustained on African tradition and culture. It was the Greeks who came to Africa years ago, millenniums ago, to get the foundation of the understanding of the arts and sciences of civilization. And then they end up transforming it into a European narrative. So now it is up to Africa to save the world from its own dilemma. Every developed nation to world is in crisis socially. So it means that they cannot solve problems on their own and they're not worthy to be followed. As an example. So Africa must have its own example coming from our own selves of where we're going. We must chart our own course. We can't look to any other people. We can't look to the Chinese to guide our African destiny. We can't look to the Asians or the Japanese to guide our African destiny. We can't look to the Europeans to guide our African destiny. We have our own North Star, and we have to look to our own constellation to guide us into the future.
Mainly because we operate in two different logics. Have you read The Iceman? The Iceman's Inheritance. Go and read it. That's to do with the Neanderthal man. But on the more important side is the fact that if you study Africa, we're all related. That's why even in the diaspora, hey brother, what's up? Hey sister, we do it without thinking. Oh, that's my aunt. Meanwhile, you only met the, when you see somebody older than you, oh auntie, oh uncle, we do it, and these are all ways of relationships. We've lived a philosophy of cooperation, of collectivity, right? And communalism. That is very, very different from the way the European has thought. They, for example, had the feudal culture. We never passed through feudalism, you know, and so on. Our chieftaincy, or I hate using the word chieftaincy, but just for getting on, the words we even use are very different. So whenever we apply certain words, we are actually killing our own spirit and the meaning of who and what we are. But till we rediscover our minds, we will keep on. And this kind of dialogue brings about a rediscovery. We've been dismembered. Now we have to remember our mind. And once we do it, then we are on. Well, I remember that our president, for example, talked about the year of return and beyond the year of return. We've been talking about bridging the Atlantic for quite some time. It's not just America, the Caribbean, and so on. And once you do that, you start rediscover, but How did they survive oppression? Enslavement is oppression. How did they survive? Colonialism is the same. You that I'm talking to, whose mind are you using to walk around, to ask me questions? Is it the mind of your enemy or the mind of your brother? You understand what I'm trying to say? So ask yourself, whose mind? When you talk about economics, who defined it for you? Whoever defines your world controls your world. Who has defined this world that you're using? In whose image are you imagining yourself? When you see the mirror, you look into the mirror, do you see yourself? So it's a process, and we are all part of it. Even the languages over time may change. I quite remember giving a talk somewhere that if we want to keep English and French, then let's create a dictionary translating English, the words into our own meanings. So these are some of the challenges we have, but we'll get there. That's where the hope is. How long shall they kill our prophets, eh?